Welcome to the Books Between Friends podcast.
3 lifelong friends,
one shared obsession.
Books.
From epic fantasy to page-turning thrillers.
We dive into the stories we love
And the ones we just can't stop talking about.
So take a seat,
Grab a drink,
and get cozy.
Welcome back, book friends. Speaking of cozy, what's making you feel cozy these days? For me, I just got back from a trip to Atlanta, and I can tell you on the plane ride there and on the plane ride back, I was reading Mistborn all the way, and that has been keeping me cozy because I am absolutely loving it, and it has been keeping me 100% engaged. So yes, that has been keeping me super cozy. Jen, Steph, what about y'all?
So for me, I've just been having a really tough time, guys. Like academically, I'm going through a lot right now. And so it's really taking its toll on me. And so I will tell you that the thing that is keeping me like really sane and cozy right now is actually reading. And it's funny because the book I'm reading is really not a cozy read. It's actually very high intense, like super, like just I don't know if you guys know, I'm reading the Ruthless Boys series, and that goes along with like the Zodiac Academy series. There's just so many books that are in that series right now. And so the Ruthless Boys ones are like super intense, very spicy, just so good. Like the plot twists are crazy and like everything is just so good. So it's not like cozy, but it's been keeping me cozy. It's been keeping me sane this week. And so I have just been devouring these books. And I actually told Stephanie that I started reading them on my Kindle because the books are like so big. Like I'm on book 5 of the series, and that's like almost 1,000 pages. And I have been reading on my Kindle. Yeah. And I have been getting through them so much quicker. I'm like, how am I like 30% in already? Like, how is this even possible?
Yeah. I told you guys when I got my Kindle, I like flew through like 3 or 4 books within weeks, which is not normal, you know? So it's a real thing.
I don't know how. Maybe it's just because it's less daunting. Like when you have a Kindle and you don't see like such a big book. I don't know, but it's keeping me cozy this week.
Yeah, I truly believe like the Kindle, because the pages are smaller than actual book pages, and so it just builds up your momentum as you're reading it, because it doesn't take you as long to read it, you know?
Yeah.
But I love the Kindle for that reason.
Yeah, that's a good point for sure.
It's great to travel with, and it's water resistant.
Yes. Yeah.
All of a sudden, this sounds like a Kindle ad, but
I know,
no.
sorry.
Kindle, sponsor us.
Please.
So what's been keeping me cozy is I've been like, so Jen, you know this. I always tell you how much I struggle with my sleeping schedule. I am not a morning person. I am a night owl. Just like my internal clock works that way, you know?
Same.
So I struggle with like going to sleep at an acceptable time for adults. So I have been, you know, every now and then I go through these bouts where I'm like, okay, I got to get it together and like sleep at a normal time. So I've been doing that. I've been doing a lot better lately, and it does make a difference in like, I don't wake up as grumpy. I get to work more on time. So yeah, it's crazy what a difference like having a proper sleep schedule will do for you.
I was actually just telling my coworker about that today. So like I mentioned before, I'm having a really hard time sleeping. And I know it's because I'm in my head and I'm really stressed out. But I also know the answer to this, which is having a good sleep schedule, which is also making sure I'm exercising, which I'm not. Like, I know the proper things that I need to do to make sure I'm good, and I'm just not doing them. So I was telling my office mate today, I was just like, you know what? I have to get my shit together, y'all. Like I have to at least go on a walk, at least make sure that like I'm hydrating properly. Like I need to do all the things that I know are going to help me sleep, because if I don't sleep, I'm just going to keep feeling worse, you know?
Yep.
And so, you
It's
know,
all
just
connected.
got to be an adult, I guess.
All right. So we're all 2000s kids, right? That means a big pivotal moment of our childhood was Lindsay Lohan. Yep. And I would say The Parent Trap and Freaky Friday. I don't know about y'all, but I am incredibly excited about Freakier Friday. And so,
this is the first I'm hearing about it.
What? You haven't heard about this?
It comes out today. Like, it's coming out today.
Oh, cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll be so honest. Like, yes, love Freaky Friday, but my favorite Lindsay Lohan movie is Mean Girls,
Oh,
like the original
100%.
Mean
Yeah,
Girls.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
was just
I
gonna
But yeah,
can
that's
say,
quote
exciting.
that.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
you
this is
can for
so
sure.
relevant. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's my favorite actually. That is
Danny
one
DeVito,
of
I
my
love your
all-time
work.
favorite movies. Yes,
He doesn't even go here.
seriously, I quote that on a daily basis.
On the daily, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Me
okay,
too.
I never really liked Freaky Friday. So when I saw that they were like making the Freakier, I was like, I know people are really excited about it, and like everyone is excited about Chad Michael Murray on there too. I'm just like,
It's not my
No.
favorite, but I would love to watch it.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it, and I'm like dragging Nick to the theater to see it. So
Love
awesome.
that.
I love just Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis together. I love Jamie Lee Curtis,
Yes,
period.
she's
Yeah,
so
Um,
she's so
good.
good. Yeah.
yeah, we are so stoked to be discussing our new read for the podcast, Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And so many people call it Mistborn, like the first book in this series, Mistborn, when actually it's The Fallen Empire. But people just, it's so synonymous that they just call it Mistborn. So I think many fantasy readers would qualify this as a book that bridges the gap between young adult fantasy and adult fantasy. I think it's written in a really approachable way, and that's been really apparent reading this first section. And I think a lot of people would consider a perfect gateway to the remainder of Brandon Sanderson's work. I think many people would tell you to start with Mistborn, and so that's what we're doing here, and I'm so excited. So before we dive in any further, I'm going to kick it over to Jen for our regular public service announcement.
So, before we get started, quick spoiler warning. If you're listening to this episode, we are assuming that you have read all the way through chapter 7 of Mistborn. So, there will be spoilers throughout. I also just want to take a moment and say thank you to the people who take their time to leave us a review on our podcast, because we are loving the feedback that we're getting from everyone. And I really just wanted to give us a shout out to Jen L. She gave us 5 stars, and she said that this was a great show, that she always loves listening in to this podcast. So thank you so much, Jen. And everybody
Thanks,
else,
Jen.
Thank you,
if you
Jen.
are enjoying our banter and our podcast, please leave us a review. Please help us grow and let others find us.
Yes. All right. Fantastic. So before we just discuss, right, I want to get our first impressions on how we feel about this book. I think I was really excited because this is one of the ones that I put in for our picks, like when we were choosing which ones. And so it's no secret that I love fantasy. Usually my fantasy involves like a cool magic system balanced with some like pretty awesome magical creatures, like dragons. So this book so far feels very steampunkish, which is really not my vibe. Usually I don't like the steampunk type things,
Mhm.
but I know a lot of people do, so that is totally fine. It's just not usually my cup of tea. I have a hard time connecting with that in my brain. But I have been loving this book, reading this so far. I have already pictured the different actors in my brain of who plays each character, so I'll reveal that a little later. But yeah, I'm just loving it so much so far, because just it's, yeah, even, I mean, I think we love Beach Read for like the witty banter, and I feel like we're still getting witty banter here with some of these characters, and I'm loving that part of it. So what about y'all?
So for me, it's funny because like before we decided to do this book for our podcast, I had told Ethan and Stephanie that I really wanted to get into more fantasy, and I was like, I wanted to dive into Brandon Sanderson, because again, we've all heard his stuff is amazing. I was really excited about it. So the very first book I actually bought was Mistborn, The Final Empire. And so I was just like, I'm going to start here. This is a good place to start. This is what I've heard people starting with. So I was excited about that. And then we decided to do it for our podcast, which I was even more excited about. But I think I've mentioned it before. Back when we read Darker Shade of Magic, I usually only read romance or fantasy. So I would say this is probably my second book that I'm getting into that's just fantasy. So I'm really excited about it. I'm loving it so far. It has not disappointed whatsoever. I will say though that, and it could be because I'm tired these days, but I had a hard time getting into it in the very beginning. So when I was reading the prologue in chapter 1, I don't know if it just wasn't clicking in my brain. Like I couldn't picture things. Like like I can usually do when I'm reading like a romantasy book. Usually the images pop right up in my head. I can picture everything. I can see what's going on. But for this one, I just could not, for whatever reason, just latch on. However, I went back, I started over, and it finally started picking up for me. There's a lot of really great world building happening already, and such little time within these pages. It just kind of feels like I was reading Game of Thrones, where we're kind of jumping from character to character, world building to world building. And so I'm loving it, and I cannot wait to get more into the story and see what goes on.
So I also have had Brandon Sanderson on my radar for a while, and his catalog of books is a little daunting to me because so
Yeah.
many people call him like their favorite fantasy writer. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I want to make sure I start off right. And to Ethan's point, people always say to start off with Mistborn, and so it's something I've been wanting to jump into for a while. And so I also was super excited that we are going to do this for our podcast because, it's such a beloved story. He's such a great author,
Mhm.
at least so revered in the fantasy world.
Right.
And right away, I'm loving the unique magic system. We'll obviously talk about it here in a second, but I've never written or read anything like this. And so it's interesting, it's intriguing to me, and the characters already, I'm like trying to figure out their backstories, trying to figure out like what makes them tick, and that kind of stuff just like sucks me into a story. So I'm excited to see how that develops in this world.
All right, book friends, now let's get into a deep dive portion of our conversation today. Just a reminder that we are changing things up in the way we discuss this book from our usual structure we've been using in the past. For Mistborn, and maybe more in future books, give us some feedback if you like this kind of format or not. But for this book, we will be doing a 3-2-1 format, where each one of us will bring to the table to discuss 3 things that stuck out to us, 2 characters that had great or impactful moments, and 1 prediction we have going into the next section. Now, because we're doing this new structure, I thought it might be helpful to provide a recap of what has happened so far so we have some context as to the points that we want to discuss. So we started in the prologue. We open in this oppressive world of the final empire ruled by the immortal Lord Ruler. After our prologue, we meet a couple more characters, Vin, Cayman, and the first sparks of this story. Okay, so we meet Vin, a street-smart but fearful girl surviving under a thieving crew led by the abusive Cayman. Cayman schemes to scam the Still Ministry by impersonating a noble. Vin's special ability to influence emotions, though she doesn't understand it quite yet, helps sway a powerful obligator and nets them 3,000 boxings. But the appearance of a Steel Inquisitor signals danger because these Steel Inquisitors are no joke, and apparently we find out later that they can track people who have these abilities like Vin does. Kelsier and his partner Doxson witness this Steel Inquisitor going after Vin and intervene just in time to rescue Vin. Kelsier recognizes her latent power and begins testing her for something extraordinary, that she's Mistborn. She's capable of using all elementic metals, allomancy being this world's magic system. Kelsier also uses the opportunity to plant himself and Vin firmly in control of the crew. Next section is where the rebellion starts to take place because this is the final empire, it's this oppressive empire, and of course there's got to be some rebellion. So Kelsier gathers a secretive crew, including familiar faces from his past, named Breeze, Hammond, and Clubs, to pitch a wildly ambitious plan, topple the final empire. No big deal, right? The crew, they're skeptical. Who wouldn't be, but they're intrigued.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kelsier introduces Vin as a Mistborn and reveals the existence of an 11th metal, which he believes may be the key to defeating the Lord Ruler. Kelsier's boldness shines when he breaks into a keep that night, from one of the great houses, Keep Venture, to steal a stash of this 11th metal called Atium, a precious and powerful metal. After a tense fight with some haze killers, which have the ability, they track down Mistborns, right? And they're trained to, especially to attack them and be able to defeat them. So after the tense fight with these haze killers, he escapes, further cementing his reputation as the survivor of Hathsin, and giving us a glimpse of just how dangerous he can be. And then this final section I'll cover right before we get into our 3-2-1 discussions is chapters 6 and 7. So Vin, being part of this crew now, she wakes up in Clubs' shop, beginning to sense a difference between a thieving crew and a real, if reluctant, family, because they do seem to operate as this family unit, you know? The crew begins strategizing the uprising. Meanwhile, Kelsier reconnects with his brother Marsh, a disillusioned former religious leader. It reveals a complicated past and Kelsier's deepening commitment to revolution. Finally, Kelsier catches Van eavesdropping on this conversation, and instead of punishing her, which he's really skeptical about, but instead of punishing her, he brings her along for her first night of Mistborn training. He gives her a mist cloak and teaches her the basics of allomancy, the magic of quote-unquote burning metals. Together, they end up on the Luthadel city wall looking outward. It's a symbolic and literal first step in Vin's transformation because he asks her to do some crazy stuff that night as they're training. So that's a big leap of faith for her. So
Literally.
now, yeah, right. Now we can get into our 3, 2, 1. So 3 things that stuck out to us, and I can kick us off here. 3 things that stuck out to us. I love the idea that the bad guy has already won in the story, right? I feel like that can be a common fantasy trope, and you usually see it in these kinds of stories, but usually it's good versus evil struggling for good to not let evil win. But this case, right, evil's already won. I feel, I just like that, turning it, the usual story, on its head. I think so that's my first thing that stuck out to me. The world building through Vin's eyes is incredibly smart because she's learning all this. She's been kind of this fearful girl this whole time. Mm-hmm. And still is. She's not very trusting at all. But, you know, why wouldn't she be when we get some of her backstory? And I think storytelling like this can feel rather showy very easily. Like, it feels like it can be like an out to do story building in this way, but I think Brandon Sanderson writes it in a really cool way, especially when she has her training scene, and that's when Kelsier is kind of going through the explanation there. So that's the second thing, the world building so far. And the third thing, of course, I love the different characters we get to meet as they assemble their little heist team. I love it when, you know, like, they're each experts in their field and they're coming to help in their certain way. I think that's so cool. It reminds me immediately of movies like Ocean's 11 and like The Italian Job, like all of these different heist novels or movies. It's
like a ragtag crew of like all these characters.
Yeah, and of course, again, something like that immediately evokes found family, and we all know that I'm like a huge fan of that.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. And so the idea here is that this crew is being brought together because they're trying to infiltrate like these great houses and the politics that go with that. I love that stuff, right? I think that's why so many people like Game of Thrones, where it's so political.
Yeah.
So, right. Yeah. Those are the.
I like what you mentioned about like the villain already having won. It like sets it up a little bit like a dystopian.
Yeah.
And like, we didn't mention this in the summary, but another factor of this world is the mist that happens at night. Mm-hmm. And everybody seems to be afraid of the mist, right? And they stay indoors once that starts happening. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it really feels like they're in this dystopian world where things have gone wrong and the bad guy won. And so this crew, they're all technically, you know, like criminals. Right. But, you know, they're trying to overthrow what sounds like terrible empire. So, you know, you're already on their side. You're rooting for the little guys. But, you know, we have these characters that have some great powers. Yeah. And again, the interesting magic system is so compelling.
And obviously, I don't know going forward, since this is my first time reading Mistborn, but like, I don't know, are we going to get more POVs moving forward? Do you know? And that's one thing that's going to be really interesting, because like you brought up the fact that like the world building is going on through Vin's eyes and it looks different than when it does through Kelsier's eyes. And like, I love that. And I think that's another reason why people did like Game of Thrones as well too, because there's so many different characters, so many different POVs, and you got to see all of the different worlds and how everything was progressing through everyone's different eyes, which everyone's perspective is different. So that brings a lot to the story. Right. So I do love that, especially, you know, like I agree with you, Ethan. Like I love that we're seeing it through Vin's eyes, because she's so different than Kelsier.
Yes, incredibly different. And I don't know if we'll, maybe in the future books, it's not really a prediction, so like I won't spend too much time on it, but I could see it only being Kelsier and Vin for now, because that would kind of make sense,
Mm-hmm.
especially for world building, you know, because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like
Yeah.
when it comes from Kelsier's point of view, it's still world building, but it's kind of like the sophomore level, whereas,
Yeah. Like he
you know,
already has the
Vin's
knowledge and
is
he's sharing
freshman
it.
level. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool. It's cool. I think it's very well done so far.
All right. So for me, three things that really stuck out to me were the first one that I just like immediately attached to, and I don't know why I did, but was Reen and Ben's relationship. So Ben has a brother that she talks about a lot called Reen, and she talks about like how he taught her not to trust anyone and how to take care of herself and whatever. But honestly, like I do not like that relationship at all. So it really stuck out to me. I feel like this poor girl is like super traumatized by the abuse that she's already experiencing at the hands of like Kamen. And it just bothers me so much that she's literally listening to her brother's internal advice as she's like considering. I hate that she follows it so much because he seemed very physically and emotionally abusive towards her as well. And then he abandons her. So like, why are you listening to this person that clearly was not a good person to you, but yet you're taking all of his advice to heart? That is just so interesting to me. It reminds me a little bit about Daenerys and Viserys, like how he, you
Yeah.
know, literally like used and abused her for whatever he needed. And it kind of sounds like what Reen was doing to her. Obviously, we don't know the full backstory just yet and like what happened up to, you know, him abandoning her. But that was interesting. I think Vin is a very interesting character, and I honestly cannot wait to see her character development because I know there's going to be a ton there. I hope
Yeah.
she becomes a badass like Daenerys. Obviously, minus the dragons, right? But yeah,
I
no,
think she
like
will.
I think she will. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, no, I hate that she's just listening so much to her brother. The other thing that really stuck out to was just like, who the heck is this Lord Ruler? Like, I know we're just starting off.
Mhm.
I know we're only 7 chapters in, y'all. But I was like, it got mentioned too, like that he was some sort of deity, like he was some
Yeah.
god. And I'm just like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, well,
So
like there's a lot of mystery behind this guy, and I wonder it's gotta be on purpose, you know?
obviously,
If you're
yeah,
people fear what they don't know or what they
right.
don't understand, and so if he's this mysterious, all-knowing, ominous, omnipotent being, you know, like that's going to keep people in line more.
Is that going to be like a Wizard of Oz situation where you
We'll see. I don't know. It could be. Or is he that powerful, you know?
So that's what I was thinking when I was reading about the Lord Ruler. I was like, is he a god? Is he immortal? Like, what is going on
Mhm.
here? I also questioned, like, what is this mist and ash coming from? Like, I think it got mentioned that it was some sort of punishment, right?
Well,
But why
that's
are
what the
people
Lord Ruler said to them.
exactly?
So, you know, like, can he be trusted?
Exactly. And the other thing too, why are people so afraid of this mist? Like is it like acidic, you know? Like or why are they just so scared to be out there? Is it because it covers everything and you don't really know where you're going? I don't know. It was all super intriguing. Like I know that this is all part of the world building and I'm here for it. It's super super cool. I just need to know more. Obviously it's going to go as the book progresses, right?
Right.
And then my last thing was we've all mentioned it, and I'm sure we're going to keep mentioning this, but the magic system is very interesting. So for me, a romance girly who loves reading romance, I am barely dipping my toes into fantasy. And I feel like I haven't read anything like this magic system before. So it's super interesting. I mean, metals. Who knew that you could use metals to have powers, right? To have magic.
Yeah.
Like it's so cool. So I had to like go back into the book and go back and read each one, what each one does. So steel pushes metal, iron pulls metal, pewter increases physical attributes, the tin increases your senses, the zinc writes emotions, the brass suits emotions, and copper hides elemency, and bronze finds it. And so, like, a Mistborn is somebody who can use all eight, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they were testing Vin for whether or not she was Mistborn, first they had her try manipulating one metal,
Mhm.
and then they had her try manipulating a second metal, and he said to her, if you can manipulate more than one, then you can manipulate all eight, and that
Okay.
makes you Mistborn.
Okay. And a Misting is just somebody who can manipulate one, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, again, this ragtag crew that they've assembled to overthrow the final empire is full of Mistings, but only Kelsier and Vin are the Mistborn.
Okay. And then the last thing that going along with the magic system was the vials that Kelsier was obviously carrying around and having to drink to like, and that obviously gives it the power to be able to use it, right? Gives it the full strength of
Hmm.
it. So like, I'm just really interested to know more about like the percentages of the elements that have to go into that. Like, how did he know that? How did he figure that out? Like, was that like trial and error type thing? I'm interested to see like what's going to happen, how it backfires if you don't use the right ones. Like, it's just so much going on here and it's just so cool. So yeah, those are my things that I really latched onto. I'm again, I need more. Like I cannot wait to read the next section.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess it's my turn to talk about my three things. And like, I also am so interested in this magic system. It's like nothing I've ever read before. Like, okay, I always put myself in the shoes of like a character when I'm reading a book and try to figure out like, would I survive this? And I'm already thinking like, I'm never gonna remember what all the different metals are or what they do. And I could see myself like accidentally using one, not meaning to use that one, and like totally fucking up a heist?
Dude, same. Like literally same.
But this is so cool. And like, okay, so if we think about it, Vin, she was already using her misting powers before she even met Kelsier. She had no idea that she was a Mistborn. She didn't even know that terminology. And she was calling it her luck. And what she was using it to do is to soothe emotions. And she called it luck because she used it to convince people that they were trying to basically swindle to go along with whatever it is they were trying to get them to agree to. Even Cayman seemed to think that she was some sort of good luck charm, didn't even realize that she was basically using allomancy on these people. But that means that she had brass in her system, right? Based on what you were telling us about the different metals. So I'm like, okay, well, like, where did that come from? And then at one point when they were training with Kelsier, she recognizes pewter for whatever it does. I already forgot. And then she remembers like we have some silverware at the keep that is made of pewter. So maybe it's like trace particles of pewter got into her system. So this stuff has to be in your system for you to be able to use it. And that's why they mix up the vials with the water and the different elements. And yeah, Kelsier seems to have like all this knowledge about it. And he's like a master at using this. So I hope we get more of his background and how he got to be so, good at being a Mistborn.
Yeah.
He was able to fight off, what was it, like eight different, what do they call them?
The haste killers.
The Haze
That
Killers?
was really
Yeah,
cool.
but on his own, by
Yeah.
himself, on top of guards. So that was
Yeah.
just like their second tier of like security at
Yeah.
this nobleman's house.
Yeah. That was really cool.
So that was my first thing, the magic system, allomancy. It's so cool to me, and I can't wait to read more about it. And then the second thing that stood out to me is also something you guys both mentioned is the final empire and this guy, the Lord Ruler. I
Right.
I am also getting the vibes of maybe it's going to be like a Wizard of Oz situation where like we pull back the curtain and he's not so scary, Because like again, I mentioned it before, like this air of mystery and like everyone seems to be so afraid of him. And even the mist, like Kelsier and Vin go out in the mist and Kelsier is not afraid of the mist.
Yeah.
And that elevates him in other people's eyes because he'll go out into the mist confidently
Hmm.
and is not afraid of it. And sometimes you just have to face things and realize they're not as big and bad as you build them up to be in your head. So
Right.
I'm kind of feeling like maybe that's the case here with the Lord Ruler. And once they get closer to him, maybe it's going to collapse whatever hold he has on this empire. So I'm excited to see how their plan goes.
The crazy plan.
Yeah, their insane plan. It's so funny. Everybody keeps saying like, this is insane. This is insane. They're like, but yeah, let's do it.
Well, let's do it. Let's come up with a plan. Like, what?
Yeah. And they're actually like planning it out.
I
It's so
know.
okay, let's see how this goes.
Right.
And then my third thing that I wanted to talk about is about her brother Reen. He's not in the story right now, but she keeps thinking about growing up with him and how he taught her all of these things that essentially made her the way she is today. Like his voice is in her head constantly. And he's the reason that she doesn't trust anybody, that she is so observant of her surroundings, that she doesn't believe that, this new group that she's found herself in isn't out to like get her or hurt her or betray her. But I'm curious, like, I'm wondering if, maybe there's something, obviously that sounds like an awful older brother dynamic and situation, but like, why would he teach her basically to fend for herself on the streets alone and then abandon her? Like, if he really didn't care that much about her, maybe like would he have just like gotten rid of her a lot sooner? Because why go through all the trouble to basically raise her to this point where she's on her own and independent, obviously in an abusive, horrible situation, but
Yeah.
she can fend for herself. And I wonder if he knew anything about her Mistborn abilities. Like for some reason, she doesn't seem to really know that she is an Allomancer, and she calls it her luck instead of misting. That's the term that they're using a lot for those who just have one quality or one power. So I feel like there's more to the story with Reen, and I hope that we get to uncover some more of that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like that was definitely one of the things I was thinking about too, because like she sees it as him protecting her by showing her how to take care of herself, alone. But to me, I see it as like he was purposely making her feel this low about herself, so she wouldn't, so she wouldn't depend on other people, so she wouldn't ask for help. Like he was purposely making her that way, and I don't know for what reason, and then ends up leaving her anyways. Like, and then
Yeah.
one thing I did pick up, like that she mentions a lot, is like, oh, they're holding something over me. Like they're withholding information from me because they need me. They need to use me.
Mhm.
And until they get the full use of me, then they'll give me the full information. And so it's like, what did he do to make her think that way? How did he use her? Like yeah, this whole situation. And
Yeah.
obviously it does
It's
play a big moment too, because like all she does is think about her brother.
exactly. So it's a little bit of conditioning here. So
Mhm.
from what we've said in our three things that stuck out to us, there's like four bigger pillars, I guess, to kind of that we've kind of grouped them into unknowingly, since we all did these on our own separately. So one of them is, I think, just the world building in general. Another is the magic system, specifically
Mhm.
allomancy. Like, that's freaking cool. Another one that we keep on going to is I said it in my way that, the bad guys already won. And so for this story, and then you two both pointed out specifically the Lord Ruler. So that's a third area. And then the character dynamics, right? And I think a big one here that, even though he doesn't get a lot of screen time, is Reen. And I think you said it earlier, Jen, but like it's giving Daenerys and what
Viserys.
Viserys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can never remember their names, but yeah, there's a lot, and I love the show, but there's just a lot of characters, and they
Yeah.
all run very similarly.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's the dynamic that I get is Daenerys and Viserys, and even though like it's conditioning, like he's programmed her
Mhm.
to think that way about
Yeah.
herself. In very
Right.
much the same sense that we see Daenerys in the beginning of her character arc.
Mhm.
So it makes me hopeful at what Vin could become
Right.
Mhm.
in spite of Reen, in spite of that relationship, right? And
Right.
hopefully we like it's the correct form of Daenerys rather than what we get
Yeah.
at the end.
Well, like the reason why I'm so interested is I wonder if he purposefully made her untrusting of people to protect her.
That's what I
And
think.
and possibly knew that she had this huge power that people, if the wrong people found out and got her hands on her, or got their hands on her, would betray her. And that's one thing that like he drove the point home for her, was like, don't trust anybody, they will use you and betray you. And then he even taught her that lesson by betraying her himself in leaving her.
I
So
don't think there's any good intent behind anything he's doing. Like, I do not think he's looking out for her at all. Like, I think he probably got what he needed from her and left.
well, what did he get from her?
Exactly. That's what I want to
I
know.
know, that's the question,
Well,
right?
well, here I'm thinking, like, I'm on the other side of your thinking, Jen. I wonder if he thought he was protecting her by like, making her always just like sneak around in the
Cynic.
shadows, go unnoticed, and like not show her true power or true
Somebody who
value.
wants to protect you doesn't beat you to, like,
I'm not saying it's the right way to go about things,
Yeah.
but people do all kinds of things, good or bad, for good
what
and
they
bad
think is right.
reasons.
What they think is right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that kind of storytelling in fantasy in general, right? Where,
Mhm.
you know, because the world is a certain way, it shifts the dynamic and how people think and
Right.
how they effectively force it on other people just because they don't know any better and they don't know any other way.
That's a good way to phrase
So,
that.
yeah, so now granted, I think the way he goes about trying, like, I think it probably came from, like, at least in the beginning, a place where he was like, well, because this has worked for me, it's going to work for you too. You may not like it. I
Yeah.
don't like
Yeah.
it. I don't
Yeah.
even like being this way. I never smile, damn it, you know? But I could see him having that kind of warped sense of reality, you know?
Well, like, we got to remember that they both grew up alone. Like, they don't talk, or she doesn't mention a father figure or a mother figure in their lives. So, like, they had to grow up on the nitty-gritty streets of this, awful empire. So, his moral compass may not be what our moral compass is, because our backgrounds are so different and our upbringings are so different. I'm not making any kind of excuse for that. I'm not saying it's good at all, but it's maybe the only way he knew how,
Honestly, we could spend a lot of time talking about Rain and Ben, and he's not
Yeah,
even.
I know.
I know. How cool is that though? Like he
Yeah.
That's
gets
so great.
5% of screen time and we're already like so invested.
Yeah.
But,
Fantastic writing.
okay,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Speaking of fantastic writing, let's shoot on into the allomancy, because that, when I first read it, I mean, I've read this book previously. Did I get all the way through? I honestly can't remember if I finished it. I don't think I did. But because it's been that long, but I love the idea of allomancy. And I love the idea that it's more than just, like Avatar The Last Airbender being a metal bender and you can just manipulate the metal. Like each metal or each alloy gives you a different kind of power. So did anyone actually write it down? Because I did not, like, of what
I
each
did.
metal does.
Yeah.
Ooh, yes. Ever
So-
the PhD student.
Of course.
Well, I had to know, like, I needed a chart. I was just like, I need to know what each of them do, right? So
Yeah.
if you have steel, that helps push metal. If you have iron, that pulls metal. If you have pewter, that increases your physical attributes. Tin helps you increase your senses. Zinc rides emotions. Brass soothes emotions. Copper hides your elemency. And bronze finds it. Now, I think they do talk about ATM, but I don't know if they talk about the power here or in the other section. I do know what
Not
it
yet.
does. Okay. I was like, I
Yeah.
do know what it does,
No.
but I can't
That's
remember if it
in
was
the
here.
next few chapters.
In the next one. Yeah,
Okay.
they just allude to this, 11th metal.
But yeah, so these eight metals, like, so interesting that they each have like their own thing. And I know that he's already mentioned that there's 10 total, but he hasn't mentioned the two, which I'm really interesting to find out what they do. Cause like these sound already really powerful. I mean, the fact that just picking one, like if I were to pick one, soothing emotions, that one itself is powerful enough. Can you
Yeah.
imagine having access to all 8 of these and combining them to get to be like, I have no words. That's how amazing they are. And that's how cool,
Yeah.
like what a cool concept.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally different from anything I've read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
I'd want to channel my inner cat from Fourth Wing and wreak havoc on some people's emotions.
Yeah.
Exactly,
That was what
yeah.
I was thinking this whole time. I was like, oh, like Cat.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
she riots, right? She riots emotions. Like she riles people
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
either way, really cool.
Yes. Speaking of skilled allomancers, we obviously have the Lord Ruler. What do y'all think of the Lord Ruler so far? Again, not a lot of screen time so far, and yet it's still this prevalent character that kind of just with an
Well, that's what I'm
dark inky
saying with
cloud
like
over the world.
all this mystery around this guy, and I just wonder if he's not as like all powerful as they're making him out to be. It's almost like the mists that the Ska are so scared of going out in the
Yeah.
night under, you know? And then Kelsier goes out like it's nothing, and it is nothing. It's literally just like ash falling from the sky. It does nothing to them. But because it's dark and shrouded in mystery, your head makes it up to be something that it's not, you know?
Right. And something that I know we like, at least it didn't get brought up in this section. Has anybody actually even seen the Lord Ruler? It doesn't
Right.
get mentioned. Nobody knows what he or she looks like. Let's just be real. They keep kind of
Right.
saying a he, but like it's, and I think back to now, like I know we're not tying reality to fantasy because this is not what fantasy does, right? But I think about
But it
God,
can.
right? You know, and I think like if somebody were to come up to me and say, hey, I'm going to kill God because I want to overthrow our world.
Mhm.
Okay, he's not a living thing, right? He's just somebody you do believe in. You know, like there's obviously a lot of interpretations to how people see God, but that's kind of what I think about when they talk about the Lord Ruler and like Kelsier being a little arrogant in that way, where he's like, yeah, I'm going to overthrow, or we're going to overthrow the empire and I'm going to kill the Lord Ruler. Like, how? Do you even know how? Do you even know what he looks like? And do you know like where he is? Like, there's just so many questions I have. And so to me, that kind of shows Kelsier's character a little bit and that he's like this arrogant guy, but we'll get more into that later.
Well,
Yeah.
like, and that this confidence from Kelsier is what's leading me down this path of like that whole Wizard of Oz parallel, you
Right.
know, where I'm like, he can't be this all powerful. Like, if Kelsier feels like there is a way to bring down the final empire, and he's so confident in it, like, there's got to be something else that we're not seeing on purpose, you know?
Right.
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 Right. Yeah, I would agree. And it like just keeping in line with this conversation, the Lord Ruler at this point kind of feels like you were saying, like God, but like Santa Claus, right? Where we give, where we he serves a purpose, right? To have kids act in a certain way, right? And that's what up until this point, because we know, at least not so far as I've read, no one
Yeah.
has seen him, right? No one has
Right.
laid eyes on him. And so, yeah, it feels that way right now. Like, you better be good or the Lord Ruler's going to come to get you in the middle of the night with the
Right.
mist.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was our 3. This is our 2 characters that had impactful moments. For me, I think it just goes to our 2 main characters so far, Vin and Kelsier. So for Vin, it's apparent that she has learned to stick to the shadows. The phrase that comes to mind for me when I think of Vin is like, it's better to be seen and not heard. And so I think that's why she kind of sticks to the shadows. Obviously, we've talked about it already with Reen and stuff like that. Like, she's just been conditioned to think and operate in that way. I love hearing her inner thoughts, how mistrustful she is right now. And she's not here for any of it. Like, she always thinks that there's a second, motivation behind, or
Right.
like a true motivation behind people's actions. And
Mhm.
and that's just a part of her conditioning that she's grown up with. So I think it will be interesting to see how that develops over the story. So for me, I think she had an impactful moment for her by just simply being there and not hightailing it and getting the heck out of Dodge. As soon as she was like, this is a crazy plan. What do they really mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is his real intention here? Like, it can't be this. And Kelsier, I like his character a lot so far because of his flaws, because he is, not perfect. He wants revenge, right? Whatever he's been through, like, that's what's driving his actions. So we see this cool exterior most of the time where he's kind of happy-go-lucky, but he's edgy. Again, with his internal monologue, it's a real juxtaposition because he has some heat behind his words and behind his beliefs. And so that's interesting to read. But his happy-go-lucky demeanor is what made me start giving like casting these characters in my mind. So
Okay.
it's time that
Who
we
is it?
discuss.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Okay.
want to know.
So I have like the whole gang casted. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So we have Kelsier, played by none other than Glenn Powell.
Glenn-
Okay.
Yes, because of his happy-go-luckiness.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
I could see that.
I think he has it in him
Yeah.
to be like to have that grit too. So
And he's got
Um,
like this charisma about him. So
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, I can see that.
for Vin, I have Haley Steinfeld.
Is she the girl on what is that show that everybody watches? Modern Family?
No,
No.
no, I know who you're thinking. She plays. Oh my
Let's see,
gosh,
what's something you would've
she was the
seen
girl
her
in True Grit. She's on
Who's
Pitch
that?
Perfect.
Okay, Pitch Perfect. Which character on Pitch,
Pitch Perfect 2. She's the new college girl recruit that gives Anna Kendrick a run for her money.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Oh yeah, I can totally see her as Ben. Okay.
Yes, and if it's
Okay,
not her,
so-
then it's Florence Pugh or Zendaya.
This
Not
brings
Zendaya.
up a question for me about Vin. Like, they keep referring to her as almost like childlike, but are we thinking she's like teenage?
She's
or-
16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's 16. But
I
she
guess I
looks
missed that part.
younger.
Yeah, they
Yes,
keep
so-
calling her a child.
No, she's 16. She said it in the very beginning. Something about like the way she was dressed, but she was like, "But I am 16," and because she even
Okay.
talked about like the guys like taking advantage of her or whatever.
Mhm.
And so yeah, no, they mentioned her
Or that's
age
why
in the
she
very
keeps her
beginning.
short hair, so they don't mess with
To
her.
keep
like-
it
Exactly.
boyish. Yeah.
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 Yes, so she is 16, and I know my choices are, older, but I don't know any like younger actresses, so I'm so sorry.
I can see the first one you mentioned though for sure.
Yeah,
With shorter hair.
Okay, and so for clubs, I have Oscar Isaac.
I don't know who that is. Keep going, keep going.
Okay,
What has he been in?
for Hammond, I have one of the Hemsworth brothers. I don't care if it's Liam or Chris, but they give off the Hammond energy.
I would say Chris.
Okay.
I would lean more towards Chris as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
For Breeze, I have Pedro Pascal.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I love it just
That's
because it's Pedro,
interesting.
not because I think they match.
But he has that charisma,
He does
like
have that charisma.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
yeah. So okay, clubs, and I think that's everyone. I don't know for Dachshund. I have
There's really
I
not a lot
thought
on him
of-
yet.
yeah. So that's the cast, and you're welcome. And whoever does Mistborn casting can thank me directly by payment.
Right.
Yeah,
All
right.
right. So all that to say, Jen, what characters had great moments for you?
Okay, so since this was kind of like the beginning, I didn't really have a lot of characters to go into. So we kind of have the same ones that we talked about, Kelsey and Ben, but they're different moments for me. So for me, the more I read, I feel like I'm being pushed and pulled, pun intended, on how I feel about these characters. Because like one moment
Yeah.
I'm loving them, and then one moment I'm like, what are you doing? Like you're kind of getting on my nerves by doing that. So I feel that way about Kelsier and Ben, actually, both of them. So in the beginning, I thought Kelsier had a like really badass moment when he destroyed Lord Trusting. So he was like there to talk to some people, and then he heard about one of the daughters like being taken away to Lord Trusting, and like what he does to these daughters and how he keeps them and like uses them for his own pleasure. And he like that angered him. And so like he went and literally
Yeah.
just killed them, right? So like such a badass moment. It gave me the impression that Kelsier is no nonsense type of guy. And especially, I got more of that feeling when he went after that safe with the ATM from House Venture. He just did not blink an eye killing any of those men. So to me, that was a really impactful moment with Kelsier. My second one was when Kelsier and Ben had like their little training session at the very end. That was really fun to read. I loved it. I love that he gave her her first Mistborn cloak. It really reminded me a lot of Kel and his red cloak from A Darker Shade of Magic. So I thought that was such a cool moment. And I just feel like Ben never really had, obviously we've talked about this in length, but Ben has never really had anything of importance up until this moment. And like to me, this signifies that she's finally going to be someone important, right? Considering that she's grown up hiding in shadows and like living in fear and distress. So the fact that she learned so quickly what each element does makes me think that she's going to be even more powerful than Kelsier, in my opinion. And I'm just really excited to see her grow and how that's going to impact the heist too. But I think that she's already proven that she's super observant, she's super smart, and she has a lot of really great ideas already on the heist. So, like, again, I go back and forth because, like, as I read other chapters, like, I start getting a little annoyed with some of their actions. But these two were really cool, impactful moments for me, and I loved reading them.
So obviously mine also revolve around the same two characters because those are like the main characters right now. And for me, it's the same moment, Jen, with Kelsier at Lord Trusting's keep. Like, it was interesting to me that, so like the one thing that stuck out to me about that part is that, so he basically forced all the Ska at this keep to leave and hide out in the caves where they said that's where the rebels stay. Everybody seems to know this. That's where the rebels stay. And then later on, we find out that hiding even more rebels, like amassing this army in the caves, is part of their big plan to take down the final empire. What stuck out to me in my head about this is like, so Kelsier has had this plan in his head since even before they started talking about it in that big meeting where he was trying to convince everybody to do this with him. And they started like planning it out together, and he had already set the wheels in motion back in that first section where we get introduced to Kelsier. So I'm like, okay, he's been thinking about this for a long time. Like, this isn't brand new. What else has he already set in motion? So I'm already so interested. Obviously, this is a vengeance plot for him. Even though he has this like happy-go-lucky demeanor, like very charismatic, always smiling, people always comment about how he smiles so much, even though he's been through literally the pits of hell. And so I'm like, there's something so ominous about that, you know? And I love characters like that, like you mentioned earlier, Jen, characters that at the same time you are rooting for them, they don't seem to like be 100% good people.
Right.
Right. Like an anti-hero energy.
Yeah.
Love when a character is like complicated and not like a perfect hero. So this is interesting. And then my second moment was the moment when, so after Vin finished up that job with Cayman and they're back at the keep, she gets this feeling. She's like, something's wrong. And she knows she needs to leave. She knows she has to get out of there. But the thing that was keeping her from doing that is that she didn't want to leave alone because then she would be completely alone. Even though like the people she's with aren't necessarily good people and they abuse her, she didn't want to leave alone. And so she went to the only person that she didn't necessarily trust, but if she had to pick, you know, this was the guy that she trusted the most. Ulif? Am I saying that right?
That's how I said it in my head.
Same here.
Yeah. Okay, so Ulif. So she goes and tells him, hey, I just feel like something's wrong. We got to get out of here. And then she goes and starts to like pack up like her few little belongings that literally just fit in her pockets. And then when she comes out, Ulif had betrayed her. And so like this moment for me, and she's even thinking again, in her inner monologue, remembering what Rain had taught her, like, do not trust anybody. They will betray you. And she even said to herself, like, I knew he would betray me, and yet I still trusted him. And she's beating herself up for it. And unfortunately, she got beat up for it too by Cayman. So that moment just really showed how desperate her situation is, how awful it's been, and the upbringing that she had with Reen. Yeah. Teaching her to fend for herself on the streets, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was just a really impactful moment for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think a lot of these moments, obviously we haven't met too many characters yet, and it's still early in the book, so we have to keep it kind of centralized here. But I think an honorable mention, right, because so many people know this as kind of like a heist novel, an honorable mention has to be a moment where Kelsier is going through the actual plan of the heist. Yeah. And so none of us actually mentioned that, but I think we have to mention it at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And The part that stuck out to me the most is I think a lot of reason why people love Game of Thrones is just the politics that go into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the politics of the great houses and their plan that they have in store for that on how to get each to turn against each other, I thought was like chef's kiss almost. And Kelsier's like, actually, this plan is already in motion with his little trip that he did to House Venture.
Oh yeah.
To get the safe. I just thought that was cool. What did y'all think about that moment?
Yeah, so like that one tied into the moment that I brought up because like it didn't click for me until they were going through this plan. You know, so at first they met to try to convince everybody to join in on the plan. And then they had another big meeting to try to like start laying down the actual plan, like step by step, everything. And like as I'm reading this, I'm remembering like, oh, he already sent a bunch of ska from Trusting's estate to the caves. So he already set this plan in motion. And what's so great about this scene is that he is allowing everybody else to feel like they came up with this plan on their own, even though it's his plan. He's kind of leading them towards what he has already planned in his head. And it was just so great. And again, it just showcases his charisma and the way he was able to get them to think it was their idea all along. But really, he's the mastermind of this whole thing.
So for me, I feel like the reason I didn't bring it up in like our 3-2-1, because it's one of those things where like, this is the plot, right? This is the book. This is what everything is going to be around, like based around. And so I guess like in my head, I was focusing on all the little different moments that are going to lead up to this. Mm-hmm. But also part of me doesn't think this is actually going to happen. So as I'm reading this plan, as I'm reading, like listening to Kelsier talk about this plan, it honestly brought me back to watching Game of Thrones and Daenerys saying, oh, I'm going to take my throne. And everything that had to happen for her to get to that point, which she did get to that point, but she didn't get to enjoy it, right? But everything that happened up to that point, that just makes me think about this. I don't see that happening. I think so much is going to happen in between where we're going to have a lot of character developments. Obviously, with a lot of these characters, there's going to be a lot of things that go wrong, a lot of things that go right that maybe they didn't expect to go right, but I don't think the actual plan of this heist is actually going to go down. Like that's just what I think. That's exactly why I think I didn't mention it, because like this is the book, this is the plot, right? And so
right there's no way this plan can go off without a hitch. Like obviously there's going to be some bumps in the road. So
totally
interested to see what they are.
Sure.
And who's that one character? Yeden or Yeden?
Yeden.
I was kind of saying Yeden in my head.
I was saying Yeden.
Okay.
Either way.
Yed. Like, all right, Yed.
The one who's going to take over.
Yeah, so I have in my mind, now I do love this actor, but I have Adam Scott. And
love it.
Just because Yeden seems like this squirrely kind of character.
I love it.
And I do like Adam Scott. I love him in Parks and Rec.
I can see that. Yeah. I can definitely see that.
Totally. And what's funny is that like he's supposedly like the client in this job that they were hired to do. But again, Kelsier is the mastermind behind this whole thing. This is really his plan, you know, and he was even the one to approach Yeden about this. And so he's reluctantly the leader of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we've done our 3, we've done our 2. Let's go to the 1, shall we?
Yeah.
Our favorite. So we have one prediction going into the next section. So I know this series, and by extension the whole universe that Sanderson has created, has a very wide fan base. So I will be interested to see if we get people commenting simply because we say a prediction and they're going to be like screaming on the inside, like, no, that's not right, or yes, they're on the right track.
Probably.
Hopefully it's the latter. For now, because of that, I'm going to err on the side of caution and be on the safe side and make my predictions fairly simple. So I think Vin's trust issues, because they are trust issues, are going to start getting in the way and possibly making trouble for her in the future. And if it's making trouble for her, it's going to be making trouble for her whole team now, considering she's the face of the operation, because she will be, as we learn in the heist plan, she will be infiltrating the great houses, being the face of this house,
Renault. Yeah, that's what I was
Renault.
saying.
That's what I've been saying. Yeah.
I love
So
how we
she'll
can
be.
mispronounce everything.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Another reason our listeners probably cringe. They're like,
Sorry, guys. So sorry. We really should be
doing our
listening to the
best.
audiobooks.
but yes, I predict that her trust issues will start getting in the way and will become an obstacle in and of themselves.
I love talking predictions. And I think that if you're
It's
listening
like a
in
talent we
and
have.
yes, if you're listening in and you've been following our journey since Onyx Storm, you know how much we love talking predictions. So
Yeah.
whenever we got to this, I was just like, yes, what's going to happen? Okay. So for me, we talked about this a little bit earlier, and Ethan, you made a really good point. You called Kelsier sort of like the anti-hero, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. So I almost feel like there's some foreshadowing already happening to indicate that maybe Kelsier is not the good guy that he's portraying. He's coming off as this like happy-go guy. I don't think that's who he is. I think maybe then, even as distrustful as she is, she might be latching onto something there. So to me, the character is coming off very arrogant, very vengeful. I think you mentioned that, a little selfish. Like the
Yeah.
conversation he had with his brother Marsh, like solidified that thought for me. And then like while they were planning out the heist, like it's almost like he didn't really take everyone's doubts and concerns very seriously. Like he kept just pushing his own agenda. He kept pushing and pushing until everybody agreed to what he had to say and what he thought. And so like to me, you're kind of showing that you're almost not caring that they could all die or that they could all end up arrested and executed. Like you're not showing that you're concerned for everybody else. You have your agenda and you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure everybody's on your agenda. That's how I'm seeing this first few chapters. I could be 100% wrong, and like he does turn out to be one of the best guys and one of the best characters. Actually, I know he's a good character, but I mean like in a good guy type of way, you know? And so I do love though that we're seeing these moments happen through Vin's eyes. So I'm seeing this through her eyes. So that could be why I'm also thinking that, because she is distrustful or she could be
Right.
onto something. So that's my prediction going into the
Who
next few
knows?
chapters.
Yeah.
I love it. I love
That's
it.
good.
Snaps for Jen.
I like that. Okay, and then my prediction is about Reen. Because again, he's one of the things that I brought up in my 3 points. And I just feel like, again, there's more to this Reen story. Like, he didn't just raise her to be this way and then leave her for no reason. Like, if he really wanted something out of her and maybe knew about her powers, he probably would have, like, betrayed her to, the Empire and like maybe gotten some money off of her or something like that. So I don't know. I just feel like there's something more. And I think maybe he possibly joined the rebellion and he left her knowing maybe that she had these great powers that she could be used for. And in his mind, it was probably safer for her to stay where they were and not be noticed, not know anything about her powers, to stay safe. Even though she's not safe where she's at, she's being abused, but it's better than dead or in the hands of the Empire. So that's my prediction, is that maybe he's part of the rebellion. Maybe he'll come up in their plot to overthrow the final Empire.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Snaps for Steph.
Yeah.
All right, book friends. So that was the end of our deep dive on the prologue through chapter 7 of Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Thank you so much for joining us, and interact with us on social media. We want to hear your thoughts also. Are our theories and predictions on the right track? If you've already read this story, are we completely off the mark? What did you think about the 3 points that we each brought up and the 2 character moments? This discussion, we want it to, continue on past this episode. And remember, all of our social handles are Books Between Friends Pod on all platforms.
Right. That's wrapping up our first episode on Mistborn. For our next Mistborn episode, we're covering chapters 8 through 15, where the stakes are rising, secrets are spilling, and the crew's plans are starting to take shape. But not without a few twists, betrayals, and allomantic surprises. Tune in as we break down the biggest reveals, share our wildest theories, and debate character choices, and maybe fall into a few Vin appreciation tangents here and there. Whether you're here for the heists, the magic, or the messy politics, you don't want to miss this one.